13 Americans are dead. 3,300 Iranians are dead. And tonight, the war that caused all of it becomes illegal. Not controversial, not debated, illegal. Under a law passed by Congress in 1973, the Trump administration has exactly until tomorrow, May 1st, to either get congressional approval for the Iran war or shut it down. They have not asked for approval. Congress has not given it. And the Republican senators who spent 60 days protecting Trump from every attempt to stop this war are now saying publicly, on the record, 24 hours before the deadline, tomorrow is different. If you want to understand what actually happens when a sitting president ignores a statutory war deadline, stay with me, because the next 5 minutes will change how you see everything unfolding right now. The War Powers Resolution of 1973 is not complicated. Congress passed it over Richard Nixon's veto to make one thing permanent. No president can take America to war alone for more than 60 days without congressional authorization. Trump notified Congress on March 2nd. 60 days lands on May 1st, tomorrow. The resolution does not require a vote to trigger it. It does not require a court order. It does not require Democrats to act or Republicans to cooperate. The clock runs automatically. And tonight, it hits zero. This is not politics. This is arithmetic. Share this right now, because what happens after midnight is something most Americans have no idea is coming. For 60 straight days, 4 separate bipartisan attempts in the Senate to invoke war powers and force a congressional vote were defeated. Every single time, on party lines, by Republican senators protecting the president. 4 votes, 4 failures. But something has shifted in the last 72 hours that no one in mainstream media is talking about loudly enough. Those same Republican senators, the ones who voted to block every single resolution, are now one by one stepping in front of cameras and saying the war needs authorization. Susan Collins, chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee, the Republican who controls military spending, said she is open to supporting a resolution to end military involvement if the deadline passes without authorization. Senator John Curtis of Utah said he will not support ongoing military action beyond 60 days without congressional approval. Senator Todd Young said he is assessing all his options and taking nothing off the table. Senator Thom Tillis said any extension of the war cannot be a rubber stamp. It requires a plan, a timeline, a justification. These are not Democrats. These are Trump's own senators. The firewall that protected this war for 60 days is cracking on day 61. And here's what nobody is saying out loud yet. If 4 Republican senators vote with Democrats after May 1st, a war powers resolution passes the Senate. That is the math. That is where we are tonight. Now, here is where it gets genuinely alarming. The White House legal team is reportedly preparing to argue that the ceasefire pauses the 60-day clock. Pauses. As in, the war is technically on hold, so the timer should be 2. There is one problem. The 1973 law contains no pause mechanism, no language, no clause, no provision. The pause does not exist in the statute. And Vice President J.D. Vance, the man who helped manage this war from day one, said in January, before the bombs dropped, before 13 Americans died, that the War Powers Act is, and I'm quoting directly, a fake and unconstitutional law that is not going to change how we conduct foreign policy. Fake, unconstitutional, not going to change anything. That was Vance's position in January. The war started February 28th. The deadline is tomorrow. Whether a vice president who called this law fake can sustain that position when Republican senators are publicly saying the law is real and the deadline matters. That confrontation is what tomorrow's news cycle will be built around. We cover this every day, which means if you are not subscribed yet, you are going to miss the moment this breaks open. Meanwhile, Democrats are not waiting. Multiple Democratic senators tell reporters they are exploring a lawsuit against the president, a direct legal challenge to force compliance with the War Powers Resolution. Courts have historically avoided these disputes, treating them as political questions for the legislative branch to resolve, which means if the courts decline, the only mechanism left is Congress itself. And Congress is the body where Collins, Curtis, Young, and Tillis are right now signaling that they are not going to be a rubber stamp. The political and legal pressure is not coming from one direction. It is converging from 4 directions simultaneously: the statutory deadline, Republican defections, Democratic litigation, and a public that is not behind this war. A new Reuters and Ipsos poll shows only 34% of Americans support the conflict with Iran. 34. There was no rally around the flag effect, no surge of public support after the bombs. The House of Representatives, which Republicans hold by exactly 4 seats, faces midterm elections in November. 4 seats, 34% public support. Those 4 seats are the ones being asked to authorize a war that 2/3 of the country opposes. There are 3 documented paths forward after May 1st. 1. Trump certifies in writing to Congress that military necessity requires 30 additional days to withdraw American forces, the narrowest possible extension, designed for exit, not continued operations. Republican senators are already saying this extension is not a blank check. 2. Trump ignores the deadline entirely, claims the ceasefire pauses the clock, continues the naval blockade and mine-clearing operations, and dares Congress to stop him. This path triggers Democratic lawsuits, potential Republican defections, a Senate vote that Collins has already signaled she might support, and a full constitutional crisis over war powers at the exact moment the Iran negotiations are at their most fragile. 3. Congress drafts and votes on a formal war authorization, a path that Republican senators, including Lisa Murkowski, are reportedly already working on. None of these 3 options produces a deal with Iran. None of them reopens the Strait of Hormuz. None of them resolves the gap between America's demand for a 20-year enrichment suspension and Iran's offer of 3 to 5 years. None of them addresses what is happening inside Iran's nuclear facilities right now. And that is the part of this story that should terrify everyone. IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi told the NPT review conference on Monday that his agency cannot confirm the current status of Iran's enriched uranium stockpile. Cannot confirm. The IAEA was monitoring highly enriched uranium up until June 2025. Inspectors sealed approximately 440 kilograms of uranium on their last visit. Today, Grossi said they cannot verify that those seals are intact. Cannot verify the material has not been moved. Cannot verify whether it is still under the rubble of Fordo or Natanz or somewhere else entirely. The war that was launched specifically to eliminate Iran's nuclear capability has produced a nuclear accounting gap that the IAEA Director General is describing publicly in New York at the NPT conference on the same day the war powers deadline expires. Iran, which offered to open the Strait of Hormuz as a trust-building measure and proposed deferring nuclear discussions as part of a phased agreement, is waiting on a White House response. Secretary of State Rubio called the proposal better than expected. Trump has signaled he is unlikely to accept it. And Iran's oil storage tanks, according to current assessments, have between 12 and 22 days of capacity remaining. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz, leader of America's most important European ally, said publicly this week that the United States has no convincing strategy for getting out of this war. Not a flawed strategy, no strategy. Tomorrow is the day the arithmetic runs out. The law says the war ends or gets authorized. The Republican firewall is cracking. The IAEA cannot find the uranium. The negotiations are stalled. The public is not with this president on this war. And 4 senators from his own party are on record saying tomorrow is different. 3 questions are now sitting at the center of the most consequential 48 hours in this conflict. If 4 Republican senators vote with Democrats after the deadline, does the resolution pass the House? And if Trump vetoes it, does that constitutional confrontation shatter Republican unity on every other agenda item before November? If Trump rejects the Hormuz proposal, ignores the war powers deadline, and the IAEA still cannot locate 440 kilograms of uranium, what combination of those pressures, if any, produces an Iranian agreement that actually achieves Trump's stated goal of denuclearization? And if this war ends through a constitutional confrontation between Trump and Congress, rather than a negotiated deal with Tehran, which outcome leaves Iran in a stronger nuclear position when the smoke clears? Drop your answer in the comments. Every response is read. The sharpest analysis gets featured. If this is the kind of coverage you want every single day, not weekly, every day, hit subscribe. The next update drops the moment the deadline breaks.